We'll open the meeting at 5:02 on August 13th, 2025. And first order of business is the approval of the meetings from our last meeting in June. It was a smaller crew then, but is John on? Carrie? Otherwise, Carrie, any modifications or things to the notes that you'd propose?
Okay.
No, I like to.
guess. Are you and I the only ones who are? Yeah. I have no edits proposed, and I move that we approve the minutes.
Cool. Minutes are approved.
Great.
Next up, layout of the plan. Daphne.
Yes,
you-
so I was discussing this with Scott and at the last workforce housing meeting, it seemed like the strategy and finance would take care of like the recommendations portion of the affordable housing plan. And then what education and outreach could do is, go over most of the background section of it. So, as we're preparing more information and, the data and compiling all of that, that would be a really great place. So in the packet, I just included the document that we had talked about at the last meeting, which included all, the target people that we wanted to hit. Someone added the timeline, which was really helpful. And then it looks like most of this was basically the same. And so we could honestly just take this and import it into our background section. And then I started this document just like a very general rough draft. And I believe, Carrie, you actually ended up adding some comments, which I can pull up and share.
Yeah, in the shared folder.
Yeah. So I can pull that up. And so this is just like a very rough outline of what we could include in that background section of the plan. So if you guys, want to go in there and make any changes to it, feel free. I know, Carrie, you added, some of this data stuff that we could definitely add in with like population growth and all of that. And so, yeah. I think this could just really be like a work session on, what we should add, take out, stuff like that.
And do you have the other document that you're talking about with the background? Is that the affordable housing plan document in the folder?
Let's see,
That's-
so this one is the draft affordable housing plan. And
Yeah,
then
the
I know because
EDU plan.
they're both very similar. And then the other one that was
Oh,
that
okay.
had the other
Yeah.
things was the draft Middleton Workforce Housing Education Plan. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we should delete the other one and just work off of this one now.
Sure, yeah,
Okay.
and we can just take, what was in the other one and, import it into here, so everything's just kind of in one spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I had just like gone through because my understanding is this full document with everything imported. So we'll have like this group in charge of the background, kind of laying out, why we're moving in this direction, putting together the affordable housing plan, and laying that out in the background. Then the other group is going to kind of populate the recommendations section, and then we'll have the outreach and education section in here. So is that correct? I'll kind of compile everything into one full document here.
Right.
So I just had like put in here just the background section, a suggested outline, just showing. I watched that was on the resources page, the Madison, their outline. I thought that was really helpful because did a good job. Matt Lafter did a good job of like outlining the population growth in Madison, what they were seeing with housing, and how that what the first things they looked at. So I thought that was really helpful, and I kind of based this outline of like using data to show the population growth and job growth, share housing data and current trends, for population growth and job growth, and then outline the need for the affordable housing plan. So that's how I saw it, but just kind of added comments in here as I was looking at it and trying to educate myself on everything too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will just add that, the data snapshot that I put in here, I think this was at, one of the very first meetings we had talked about important, data points to include. And so, that was just straight from that meeting. I found, data from there, and then, the number of permits, all of that. And so then these bullet points, we definitely have the data for these things. So I just have to, look through all of our files and compile all of that in there.
Hey, Daphne,
Yeah.
could you explain that huge spike in household growth in 2021?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but I'm guessing like 2020 there's like a negative 10, and then
Yeah,
2021 was, 1100. And I think that was just, because of COVID, and, we couldn't really do our data collection correctly. And this is all from the American Community Survey. So this is like US Census data. So this was just, I think just that year, 2020 and 2021, just kind of, I don't
yeah,
know, yeah, it just all kind of
but
was pushed
but that
weird.
would,
Yeah.
even if you average out over the 2 years, that's still over twice as much growth per year in
Yeah.
households
Mhm.
as in any other
Mhm.
year.
Yeah, and we have been growing a lot in Middleton, Madison area. Yeah, so
Yeah,
I really
okay,
am not sure what
okay,
inspired that growth, but
okay.
yeah, like our job growth and everything, like nothing really took a hit in 2020 or 2021. It's just been constantly growing. So yeah.
Daphne, is this the Dane County or just our Middleton city
This is
stats?
just for City of Middleton. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. The other thing with that can cause the spikes like this is when certain larger developments get approved or permitted, then those will spike it from year to year. So the city level data tends to do that quite a bit more as larger developments go online in different years. But at the county level, it tends to be a little bit smoother, and we could have the county level as a comparable to
Mm.
put that spike into context.
And this
So it'd be
is,
like
yeah,
I don't remember which developments went online, but a lot of the large apartment
sure,
complexes that have come online in the last 5 to 10
yeah.
years in Middleton would cause these spikes like this.
And it's not the end of the world, but just including it, it's just kind of a little distracting. Because I would think also that multifamily homes, that the blue
Mhm.
shaded area would also have a corresponding spike, and it actually went down. So I just in my head can't quite, I don't know. I guess I would recommend that if we can't like validate these data, we find another way to describe it so it's not quite so distracting.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm
Okay.
the only one who fixated on it.
Yeah, the household growth line is, I mean, that's just from, I believe it's like, it's either ACS or from the state of Wisconsin. So that
Okay,
that is definitely like verified numbers. And then yeah, all the single family, two family, multifamily, that's just from our permitting data. So
I see.
we compile that every year for our records, and so that both of them should be pretty trusted sources. So yeah, I'm really just not sure why it
Okay,
does, that dip and then straight up. Yeah.
fair enough. Thank you.
Mhm.
I think for the background section, including one of Kurt's graphs about the household growth and the units growth and the kind of widening gap since
Mm.
this is like the 90s, 80s, 70s that we've had, and kind of putting that as initial background for why. Um, and then maybe some annotations about Daphne when the city zoning code was updated to make it easier for the units to be permitted and approved. And then the annotation again of here's where Middleton wants to implement the Affording Housing Fund to continue to close that gap. The next point is probably like, why do we need an affordable housing fund? And that could be Kurt's graph about the pinch in the middle where you've got your 30% and below AMI trying to get more units in the middle. And then you've got your 125% AMI, again, renting down into the middle, which just makes everybody in the middle terrible.
Mhm.
And that to kind of preempt those discussions about like, well, why doesn't the market fix this? And it's like, this is what is happening in the market right now.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So from a demand side, we've had higher than average growth for tens of years, and lower than average development units being generated over the last several decades as well. And that has created this market where the prices have been pushed up quite a bit, especially with this press to the middle. That to me is like my 30-second pitch. So we are trying to fix a quirk in our own local market here by specifically reinvesting funds into affordable units. And then it could be, why don't we just build more houses? And it's like, yes, but it's very easy for the market to build houses out in a field. You can get financing for that very easily. And as you can see, we are doing that all over Middleton with the development out by Graber on both sides of Graber Pond. Like, yeah. But I think that like Kurt's graph about the widening gap of units and growth in Dane County, that's like, why now? Like, why are we at this kind of crisis point now? It's because it's been baking for the last 30, 40 years. And that might be more resonant than like kind of the spiky permitting graphs local in Middleton. I think if we could like tie that to one of those narrative points about like, we updated the zoning code to make it easier on the supply side. Now we're trying to invest to create more demand for development as well. We could maybe ask Kurt if we could just steal his source graphic as well.
Yeah. Okay, and sorry about changing everything since I figured I should pull up the online version since it looks like there are a couple people in here. And I'm just typing what you guys are saying.
Yeah, you get the challenging role of live editing while we riff. Which of course means that the part of your brain that types turns off, right? Are there other things you guys think we should emphasize or explain in the background portion? I like the kind of glossary of terms like AMI. That's a wonky term.
I mean, I think the data sources too might be good to either have like in a brief reference list at the end or explain what they are with a link like ACS.
Yeah. Yeah, and then this FAQ area, I was hoping maybe we could make these into like either little blurbs or like a little pamphlet kind of thing. And you know, it could be like a little its own little section in the plan. That way in the future, you know, as we're doing more outreach and all of that, it can just kind of be like a here's a one pager on, you know, why are there so many apartments? Or here's, you know, a one pager on how does it impact our schools, you know, something like that. Um, and that way, you know, as we're doing more outreach to all of the different, you know, target audiences, you know, as they come up, because these are kind of the questions that we get the most in the zoning department.
Yeah.
That way, you know, we can just kind of link them to these areas directly.
And so just so I understand the talking points correctly,
Mhm.
like I get why so many, like why are there so many apartments? Like you spend 30 seconds on next door and it's every other question around like, have you seen my cat? But when you say, how does this impact sustainability? Are we thinking that that means the, what is this in that, in these sentences?
Yeah,
Is it
this,
like the growth, the lack of single family homes?
mhm.
Inadequacy of the housing market in general, lack of affordability, the whole deal, like what do we want to target?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think in general, I was just thinking about affordable housing and then specifically more like the apartment buildings that are going up as, you know, this and, you know, for sustainability and, you know, the impact to schools and our fire, EMS, police. It's more about, you know, a lot of people are worried about the density of, you know, apartments and even the new like affordable or not quite affordable, but the new neighborhoods that are going up, they're a lot smaller houses on smaller lots and all of that. And
Mm-hmm.
so we've gotten a lot of concerns about, oh, like what are the impacts to, you know, our schools and all of that. And
Yeah,
so,
this, I know this, we should break out the schools from the fire, EMS and police. I don't know
mm,
what the impact of fire, EMS and police is, but for the schools, they've had declining enrollment because families can't afford to move in here. So
mhm,
we are helping our schools by getting more families able to
yeah,
move into Middleton. And that came straight from the superintendent. So if
right,
we could even get a quote from
Get a
her
quote,
on that
yeah,
one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But the bottom line is families got priced out of Middleton.
right.
And so
Yeah.
the concerns that you're getting, Daphne, is it just that people are unfamiliar with housing density and so they're worried about that? They're like they haven't had experience living in an urban environment with a thriving community and density, or
Yeah, I mean, I
about that
guess
a little
it's
more?
kind of like a longer train, right? Because
Okay.
it's like there's not enough housing, so we have to build more housing. But then, you know, all of the housing that we're building are kind of unfamiliar to the people that, you know, currently live in Middleton because we can't just build single family homes. There's not enough,
Mm-hmm.
you know, land or space. Yeah, and so then because of that, you know, they're unfamiliar with it, and so then there's a fear of all of this density. So yeah, it is kind of drawing the line of we need more housing, and like this is the kind of housing that we can build right now, and it just looks a lot more dense, and you know, is different from what is currently in Middleton.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess what's driving my like asking these questions is thinking about like the storytelling and messaging, like
Hmm.
who we're talking to and what, it's sort of like one of those tenets of like a lot of kind of like public health communication or whatever, that you don't like sometimes like the Mythbusters thing is a bad thing to do because you put the bad idea in front of like the solution.
Right,
And
right.
so I'm trying to think about making sure that we address these without like raising a lot of bugaboos or that kind of thing. Yeah.
I do like this idea of capturing the questions that commonly come up in the zoning
Yeah.
review meetings as well. So it's
Yeah.
very helpful,
Yeah.
Daphne, for you to have some of these starts
Mhm.
in here.
Mhm.
For sure. Like, like the fire EMS police, like that would not really have occurred to me, except that with, more people comes more calls for all those things, but
Right.
yeah, yeah. Could you talk for a minute about what discussion you hear about, I know some of the difficulties with the financing of building new condos, but what are you hearing with that?
Yeah, I mean that is the main question. I think this one is mostly, I think, aimed towards our alders because we get a lot of questions from residents like, oh, like why is it another apartment? Why can't you do a condo?
Mhm.
And so that it is the financing aspect of it. And so yeah, like when you're talking about who are we talking to, the target audience. In this case, I was focused mostly about alder, like we get more questions
Yeah.
from the alders about, condominiums. But also with we have a lot of residents right now who have like really old, who own like older duplexes and they own both sides and they want to sell one side. And then, they're like, how do I do that? And we're like, that's a great question. We're not really sure. Like they want to do a condominium of some sort to
Yeah,
sell it. And so that is also another aspect of it. Yeah.
okay.
And I think we'll have to keep expanding on these FAQs as we
Yeah.
put this together and we're hearing from the public and there's going to be the questions that come in. So it's going to have to be kind of a living where we haven't gotten that question. How do we we have a common message about that.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
What I wonder about is like living in the downtown core, what it's going to look like the first time somebody really tries to put a standalone ADU
Okay. Yeah.
on their property. I think the composition of the downtown is changing, but there's still some opportunity for infill. And also, of course, like I know like with the zoning rewrite, that was one of the things to make sure that you could do it in a subdivision or
Mhm.
whatever. Um, and I guess maybe Daphne, that goes back to your point about unfamiliar housing types. Like maybe that's a broader,
Mm.
I don't know, Alan or Carrie or what anybody else thinks, like what you guys are thinking or hearing about if we should break out each of these or.
I like the idea of maybe us like individually uh writing some responses here
Yeah,
and then re-reviewing. Um maybe a section in the background for what does affordable housing look like to address that like unfamiliar housing types because it is ADUs, it is splitting a house into a duplex, which is an ADU. It's um, factory built and assembled on-site homes. It's apartments. We wish it could be condos, but
mm-hmm,
it seems like a lot of the laws make it kind of intractable unless our affordable housing fund starts to fund condo developments. Yeah, and in background, I definitely think what have we done so far in Middleton? I think talking about not just Middleton's zoning code updates, but the entire Dane County region, that all the municipalities have made very similar updates to make it, oh gosh, I don't know. It depends on how you want to say it. Like easier for a developer to do things without lots of meetings, but still respecting like the autonomy and spirit of each community, right? Like we all needed to update the zoning codes to allow for faster building and approvals.
Mhm.
Um, boy, I don't know how we want to talk about that though.
right, like I guess that's where I'm also trying to think about like we've identified topics that we want to talk about, and we've identified stakeholder groups that we want to craft the messaging for.
Yeah.
And then I guess there'll be some crossover, but we might talk about the same topic differently depending on the stakeholder group, but is that getting too complicated?
Uh,
Oh, I don't know the answer to that. Just,
yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah. Maybe some of that will become apparent as we just start answering these questions, like in a
Yeah.
straightforward way, and then we can think about if we want to fine tune and think about like what our work product will look like.
Yeah. And it could be that, you know, we write some detailed responses, but what we ultimately publish may have less specific bullet points to kind
We
of
might pare down.
let whoever delivers the points fill in the appropriate detail.
I also think of like if you provide like the snapshot of the highlight document and opportunities like through references and resources for people who want to dig in more
Yeah.
to it, but like there are people who just need like the high level, what is this? Here are the concerns, we're addressing the concerns, like it's
Yeah.
kind of so layers of that. So we might find that out as we're putting this together.
Yeah. Are there any other so the first kind of task for us is individually respond to some of these FAQs, write in some additional detail into the background portion. Are there other things that we want to say, okay, by our next meeting, we're gonna have drafted or in the document?
I just was reading through before the meeting a few discussions or definitions of affordable housing. And I feel like it wouldn't have been obvious to me, you know, X number of years ago before I started thinking and caring about some of these things. Like it can be a billion things, and it's not just the built environment. It's not just the domicile. It's also financial tools. You know, there are all kinds of mechanisms that can improve affordability of housing, and not all of them have a roof and four walls. And to me, that's like a concept that I'm not sure people, and I don't want to get too wonky, but just to help people understand that you might have two people living in the same apartment building, but they're, you know, for the family that needs assistance, there may be means available, because our stakeholders are also those families or sort of people who are trying to find missing middle housing or whatever. We also have stakeholders who are in need of affordable housing.
Mhm.
So that's,
Do you mean,
Mhm.
do you mean like, so to me, the affordable housing is kind of is a financial definition where you're paying more than X percent of your income.
I see. Yeah,
And
I mean,
then,
that's, yeah,
but to your point, like at Way Forward, they talked about, oh, I forget the term that they use, but basically families that are doubled up in a housing unit, right? That is also an aspect of the affordability. But we also in Middleton talk about the affordability as far as the energy efficiency and features. Like, is your house insulated? Do you have a new water heater? Do you have a heat pump? Do you have solar panels? Like those are things that can contribute to the affordability as well. And I think those are uh, I think those might be what people also think about. So I worry about oversimplifying it to that financial
Yeah.
definition of you know,
Yeah.
over a certain percentage of your income.
I like Daphne. I'm gonna go ahead if that's okay and put in a link. Oh, shoot.
Definitely.
I'm on the Zoom, hang on. But I'll put in a link where I do like the okay, I have 14 windows open after work today. This is not cool. The National League of Cities discussion to me is pretty good for that, and maybe we could borrow some framing and language,
Yeah.
if it seems agreeable to other people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it'd
Do we
be
think-
helpful if we have, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Carrie.
Just saying that if we have, yeah, a common agreed upon what is our definition of affordable housing in the plan, in context of this plan, that we communicate, because it sounds, we have to
Yeah.
kind of ideas, so that would be really helpful if we can kind of come up with what our definition is and what we want to share.
It seems like in the context of affordable housing fund, that it may be a simplified or potentially oversimplified definition to focus on that percentage of income to housing, but also acknowledging these other aspects of affordability and housing. So like in the context of making the case for the housing fund, we're talking about how do we make it so that somebody doesn't have to spend 50% of their income on their housing, right?
Mhm.
That is the goal of the fund, is to help with financing for projects that generate units at that rent level or that income level. And then here are all the other things that we're doing in Middleton to address cohabitating families, energy efficiency with the Energy Navigator program.
Yeah.
But I'll look forward to read the link, Carrie, that you have there. Okay.
I'll put it up here too.
I like answering these FAQs specifically because, like, to
Mhm.
sustainability, man, I could riff on
Mm.
people being able to live in the communities they work as a factor towards a sustainable consumption and living. Whew. How much time you got?
I mean, especially since the Madison Metro redesign really changed things for a lot of people in Middleton about
Yeah.
getting to and from work.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So, yeah. So it seems like developing some of these one pager sort of targeted outreach materials is pretty high on the list of priorities for our group. Do you guys think? Yeah.
Well, the other document had some like concrete deliverables or objectives that we would have like per group.
Oh, yeah.
Like separate of this document, if we want to say for our group, what are some of those objective things that we want to say we want to have X done by Y date for those specific groups?
Oh, it's loading.
Because I think at the last larger group meeting, Daphne, yeah, we did clarify that we really want to have this written document because that is the plan going forward. But I think there's some other things that this group could do as far as, what we do, the deliverables.
Mhm.
And I did see that we had like redlined some items on there. Love it. Like it's always good to edit down to
Mhm.
things that we can actually get done.
Yeah, I see definitely these deliverables as like long-term kind of, we have to have the plan in place by, April of 2026, but like these is something we're probably going to be working on for, the foreseeable future, the future, 5 or so years,
Yeah.
to get more input and all of that as well. So Yeah, and I think these are really important to include in the plan too, so to let people know like, hey, this is what we're going to be working on while the whole affordable housing fund is, in place and all of that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think developing those like FAQ and like one pagers and stuff like from like the background and like the initial questions that people are going to want answered with the kind of rollout of this. And then long term.
Yeah, so it seems like,
Yeah.
okay, immediate future, let's keep focus on the document. We'll kind of come back to those deliverables as this draft continues to mature.
Mhm.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else we want to discuss with the document or immediate next steps? Because otherwise I think it's go forth, get your cup of tea and start writing away.
Should we just work within the shared document and like claim an FAQ that we're comfortable with? Is that how
Yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
And it should keep track of who wrote what, but if you want to like put your initial at the beginning of, whatever paragraph or section,
okay,
I think that is fine as well.
yeah.
And then I think we're in like a divergent kind of design period where it's okay to write way more than you want, and then we can always edit down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right.
And show our work, right? Like have links and resources and stuff to help us fact
Yes.
check each other and collaborate better.
Yes, yes, yes. And the Dane County housing
The
man, their
regional housing
website
strategy.
has
Yeah.
so much stuff. That is probably going to be like one of my primary sources.
Mhm.
Cool.
Okay. Anything else to discuss now? Anything we would want to discuss at the next meeting outside of reviewing the draft documents here? New business for next time?
Do we want to look at the graphs we might be able to get from Kurt and kind of look at our data visualization, scope that out a little?
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah,
That'd be
I'll
great.
compile all the data, that we mentioned today and that's in this document, and hopefully it can all fit in this document so that at the next meeting, we can look over all the data and we can look over all the, answers to the FAQs and all of that. And so I hopefully at our next meeting, it'll really just be like a deep dive of like editing and, paring down and all of that.
Cool. Oh, when is that gonna be? Do we know?
For the September meeting, I believe it's the second Wednesday of September, September 10th. Does that work?
Okay. I'm gonna be out of the country the next week, but
Okay.
it'll work. Yeah.
Me too. So yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Where are you going, Carrie?
I'm going first to Munich for fun,
Uh-huh.
and then to Barcelona for work.
Oh,
So
nice. I'm going to
it'll-
Brussels, but only for work. So yeah, nice.
It's still fun.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Cool.
We'll get
okay.
some work done before we.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have it all drafted and then you guys can go off and travel and
Awesome.
Awesome.
I think a future.
Daphne, I know the
Oh, wait.
meeting minutes we put in the kind of before the next meeting. Can you
Mhm.
send an email to the work group just with here's the immediate plan, work on the draft, FAQ,
Mhm.
just so we don't forget.
Yeah, I can do that.
Right.
And did you have something,
Oh,
Tia?
yeah, I was just saying, like, this might be way in the future too, but like once we have a good draft of like the background section, we can always shorten it down to like the one pager, like workforce housing 101.
Yeah.
Because that's one of our deliverables too. So like that can be a September or October goal too.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, good point.
All right. If no other business, we can adjourn.
Great.
Well,
Thanks, everybody. Have a
nice to
great
see
night.
everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
Daphne.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.